Today in this video we are going to be working on an F-150. We will be replacing the wheel bearings on the rear, which will be removing the axles and pressing them in and out. The first thing you're going to do is put the car into neutral, and we are going to step out and lift the truck up and get going on replacing the wheel bearings. If you find this video helpful, please like and subscribe to my channel. If you have any comments, please don't be afraid to ask. I love to answer questions and help people that are doing these jobs by themselves. Thank you. Now that we have the truck in the air, we're just going to want to take the tires off first. The 21mm socket. The next step, we're going to take the caliper off. You're just going to take an 18mm wrench or wobbly on an air gun. Take the two bolts out. Once you have those out, you can just slide the caliper off and let it dangle below. Then we're going to take the rotor off. This one's pretty rusted on. Just take a hammer and hit it right there. I usually sometimes take a few hits. It looks like I should be able to get it off with one good hit. Get the rotor off. Our next step, we're going to remove this ABS sensor wire off of these studs on the rear differential cover. Just going to take a flathead screwdriver and pop the three of them off like so. Then you're going to want to put some kind of drain below your differential. You're going to get a 13mm socket and take the bolts off that hold the rear cover on the differential. When I do this job, I like to leave one bolt in just so the cover doesn't fall on the ground, and helps to not make such of a mess when the cover comes off. Now you just want to get a flathead screwdriver and a hammer, come to the side of the cover, tap the screwdriver in, which will release that silicone seal. Just pry it back, give it a minute for all the gear oil to drain out. You can just let it sit there and drain for a minute. Now that we've let it drain out some, we just take a rag, take this last bolt out, pull the cover away. Now with this cover, you just want to take some kind of razor blade or scraper, go around and scrape all of the silicone off the face of this, and then put it in a parts washer. If you do not have a parts washer, you can always grab some brake clean and a rag. Just make sure you get it super clean, so you get a good mating surface when you go back to seal the differential back up. I'm going to go throw this in the parts washer and we'll be right back. Next thing we need to do is get to the 8mm bolt here. To move this, you can just grab the drive line, twist the whole gear in there. I'm just going to take an 8mm wrench, I have to hold the drive line a little bit to get some leverage on it to pop it loose. With this bolt, you want to be really careful that you don't strip it. Make sure you have a good wrench or socket. They do put a lot of Loctite on it. There is ways of getting them out if they do break. They do break every once in a while, but it's easier, saves you a lot of time if it does not break on you. Now that we have the bolt out, we can rotate the gear back down. Rotate it enough that we can get this pin out of the top. What you're going to want to do is take a magnet, grab onto it, push it from the bottom. Just get it on an angle so you can put your magnet on there. Pull it right out. Now that we have the pin out, we can spin the differential back. Be careful because there's nothing holding those gears in. But when we turn this, the gears in the inner side are not turning, it's just the outer main gears. And all you're going to do is come over to your axle. You're just going to push it in. There's a little C-clamp. You can also just take a magnet, pull it right on out. Now that you got that C-clamp out, you can just pull the axle straight out. I like to take a rag to catch it with because it is going to have a lot of oil on it. And just set the axle aside. Now that we got the axle out, we can pop the sill out. You can either use a sill popper or just a regular old pry bar. Stick it behind there, pop it right out. Now the only thing special you'll need for this job that's not a regular tool used around a shop is a slide hammer with an end like this on it, so you can slide it in there and catch the bearing and slide the pressed out bearing out. So I'm going to show you how it works. So all you're going to do is slide that end in there and get it to catch on the bearing on both sides. And you're going to take the slide hammer pull the bearing out just like so. Some of these can be pretty stubborn. They do eventually come out. Now we're going to install the new bearing. Just going to wipe some of this grease out. Slide the bearing up and in. And they do make a special kit to install bearings. We're just going to take a 1 13/16 socket, put it around here, pound it in with a hammer. sliding in really good. When you're hammered in, you'll feel it slide, then it'll hit a spot where it feels nice and hard. That's when you know you've got the bearing in. Our next step now is to install the seal. They also make a tool to install these seals. I just got an old pressed out bearing that fits perfectly around it. I'm just going to use that. To tap the new seal in. Just make sure it makes a good seal all the way around. And now our next step, we can install the axle back in. Just be easy that you don't tear the new seal. Just try to lift up on it as best you can. And once you get to the end, line it up. Make sure you push it all the way back in. Now that you got your axle put back in, you take that C-clamp, slide it right back into place, and take your axle and push it out, and it locks that clamp back into place. I'm going to repeat this process on the other side, and then I'll get back to you on how we're going to seal this differential back up. Now that we got both axles done, slid back into place, I'm just going to slide this back in, putting the bolt hole side down so we can set the set screw back in. Sometimes you do have to wiggle these a little bit if the gears move slightly. Which in my case it did. Now that you got it lined up, you just need to work it down all the way. Now that you've wiggled it all the way down, turn the drive shaft, get to your hole to put your screw back in. Just make sure you slide the pin down in. You get those holes lined up as close as you think they will be so that the screw will go in nice and easy with no headache. Always make sure you get this tightened down. You don't want to do all this and then have the rear end blow up on you because you forgot to either install it or you forgot to tighten it down. Just like so. Next step is to seal up the rear diff cover. If you want the best stuff in the market, it is expensive, but if you use this right stuff, black Minute Maid gasket maker, this stuff will seal on anything. So I'm just going to put a nice bead around the rear diff cover. Now we can just put the diff cover right back on. Put a couple bolts in just to hold it up. Put our ABS sensor down so you remember where to put the bolts with the studs on them. One right there, one in the middle, one right there. Just take your gun and go around and snug them down. And then you just need to put your calipers and your wheels back on. And after you've done that, then we'll show you how to fill up the rear differential with some fluid. So the last step is to fill the differential back up. You're just going to get a 3/8 ratchet with like a 2-inch extension. Pull the drain plug out. And you are going to fill the rear differential with 3.3 quarts of 75W 140 full synthetic gear oil. You can get that at your local parts store. So let's get her filled up. Also, if you don't have a way of seeing how much is going in, you can just fill it up until it starts running back out of the fill hole, is what most people do. Now just put your plug back in. And I'll show you what we're going to do the next step, and then we'll recheck it after we do this last step. For this next step, you just need a floor jack. Drop the truck so the tires are on the floor. We're going to take the jack underneath onto one of the sides. We're just going to jack it up so that this wheel on the left side goes up, causing the fluid in the rear diff to now run over to the right side, just so we can make sure we get a little bit of gear oil in that side on first takeoff so we don't burn up the bearings. We'll let it sit there for a minute, let some oil run into there, and then we'll do the same thing. I won't show you, but you can do the same thing on the other side just to get a little bit of oil down in those valleys. Now that you've jacked up both sides of the axles, you just want to check the fluid levels one last time. Need to top this one off. Doesn't take much. Tighten her down and just wipe all your surfaces clean. That is how you do rear wheel bearings in an F-150. Thanks for watching and thanks for the support. If you have any questions, please don't be afraid to leave a comment in the comment section. Thank you.